Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a story that sounds honestly like pure Hollywood fiction, but I assure you it is absolutely real. We're deconstructing the unbelievable, meteoric rise of a 15-year-old kid who is literally reshaping the very foundation of modern T20 batting. We're going to take you right back to the highly charged atmosphere of the 2026 IPL season, specifically a do-or-die playoff match. In that absolute pressure cooker, a teenager stepped onto the pitch and essentially played a completely different sport than everyone else out there. It's a wild story of raw talent, shocking economics, and honestly, the dawn of a whole new cricketing era. Let's get into it.
Just let that number sink in for a second. 334.48. That is an astonishing, almost video game-like strike rate. It's the kind of number you might expect to see in a weekend tape-ball tournament. Definitely not at the absolute pinnacle of global franchise cricket. How does a mere teenager step up and rewrite the fundamental rules of the sport like this? How does he shatter records held by absolute legends and, in the process, generate incredible, franchise-altering wealth in a span of just 29 deliveries? Well, that is exactly the phenomenon we're going to unpack today.
Okay, let's dive into this, because to truly appreciate the sheer absurdity and scale of what happened during this eliminator match, we really have to grasp the mismatch on paper. On one side, you've got Vaibhav Suryavanshi. He's a 15-year-old boy from Samastipur who hasn't even sat for his Class 10 board exams yet. He's essentially still a high schooler. And on the other side, you have Pat Cummins, a multiple-time World Cup winning captain, a seasoned international veteran, steaming in and hurling a rock-hard cricket ball at 140 kilometers per hour. By all logical metrics, this sounds like an absolute mismatch, right? The veteran should feast on the rookie. But the reality is, Vaibhav didn't just survive, he completely dominated the exchange.
Look at this absolute, unfiltered carnage against Sunrisers Hyderabad. Vaibhav blasted 97 runs off a mere 29 balls. To put that into perspective, he smashed 12 massive sixes and 5 fours. He wasn't just, finding the gaps, he was clearing the ropes with absolute disdain. By the end of the power play, we're talking just 6 overs into the game, he had single-handedly propelled the Rajasthan Royals to an unbelievable 80 for no loss. The game, a high-stakes playoff match, mind you, was essentially settled before it really even began. He treated those 140-kilometer-per-hour deliveries like casual throwdowns in the practice nets, completely demoralizing a world-class bowling attack.
So you have to wonder, how does a 15-year-old actually achieve something so unprecedented? We really have to look at the psychology behind his swing. When a typical teenager faces international superstars, the natural human instinct is to play the bowler, right? To get intimidated by the famous name on the back of that jersey. But Vaibhav's Royals teammate Dhruv Jurel summed up the prodigy's mindset perfectly with a very revealing quote. "I don't give a damn about any bowler. That's it." Vaibhav ignores reputations entirely. He doesn't see a World Cup winner. He just sees a ball to hit. He watches the release, trusts his eye, and reacts with zero hesitation and absolutely no shadow of a doubt in his own abilities.
And this brilliantly illustrates how that fearless, aggressive mindset translates into flawless, devastating technique. Let's run this back for a second. He completely dismantled one of the shrewdest operators in the game, Pat Cummins, who literally tried every trick in his vast arsenal. First, Cummins bowled a fast, full ball to cramp him for room. Vaibhav simply stood tall and dispatched it straight back over his head. So Cummins adjusted, digging in a sharp short ball. Vaibhav rocked back and slashed it viciously over third man. Getting desperate, Cummins tried to deceive him with an off-cutter, a slower ball. Vaibhav read it right out of the hand and smoked it down the ground. This freakish mid-delivery adaptability meant Cummins had completely run out of ideas by his third over.
The shock radiating through the stadium wasn't just confined to the fans in the stands, it was deeply, deeply felt in the opposing dugout. James Franklin, the SRH assistant coach and a former international fast bowler himself, admitted his team simply had no answers. He straight up called the performance freakish. The margins of error to bowl to this kid were practically microscopic, but what is truly scary for the rest of the cricketing world, as Franklin pointed out, is the terrifying prospect of his longevity. Think about it. This kid potentially has a 25-year career ahead of him. He is only 15. He's literally only going to get stronger, smarter, and more mature.
Now, as mesmerizing as the on-field stuff is, we need to pivot the narrative for a second. Let's step away from the sheer spectacle. In the high-stakes world of modern franchise cricket, every single run and every single ball is directly tied to complex economics. It's a multi-million-dollar business. So we have to ask a truly fascinating question. What is the true calculated financial value of those 29 deliveries? When you strip away the roar of the crowd, what is the raw Moneyball analytics behind his single-game impact? Well, the answers are absolute jaw-dropping.
When we crunch the numbers, a staggering picture of his actual worth emerges. Let's break down the underlying financial model here. The Rajasthan Royals retained Vaibhav for INR 1.10 crore for the entire season. If you spread that cost across the tournament, his baseline cost to the franchise per game is roughly INR 6.88 lakh. However, modern cricket utilizes an advanced match-impact model, which meticulously tracks how every single ball shifts the team's statistical probability of winning. According to this model, in this single eliminator match, Vaibhav generated a total calculated worth of INR 5.22 crore. Subtracting his per-match cost, he delivered an astounding net profit of INR 5.15 crore in one single night. He essentially paid his entire season's contract back almost 5 times over in the span of roughly an hour.
So, the crucial point is this absolute stunner of a statistic. When you take that massive INR 5.15 crores of net value generated for the franchise and divide it by the mere 29 balls he faced at the crease, you arrive at INR 17.78 lakh. Seriously, let that sink in. That is his per-ball financial generation in this match. Every single time the bowler released the ball, Vaibhav was essentially generating nearly 18 lakh rupees of value for his team. No pressure, right?
Let's contextualize this massive data by translating it into real-world terms, because the sheer scale of it is almost hard to wrap your head around. In the roughly 20 seconds it takes a fast bowler to walk back to his mark, turn around, run up, and deliver a single ball, Vaibhav Suryavanshi produced more financial value than the average salaried Indian citizen earns in 6 entire years. Let me repeat that. 20 seconds of his work on that pitch equaled half a decade of an average, hardworking citizen's earnings. The concentration of wealth generation in those fleeting moments is simply unparalleled.
And if we zoom out and look at the total value of all 29 balls he faced in that innings, it equates to a staggering 177 years of average wages. Or hey, if you prefer to measure your cricket statistics in luxury vehicles to keep things light, his innings generated the financial equivalent of 5 brand new Mercedes-Benz GLEs. It's a fun, slightly ridiculous way to look at the math, but it truly makes the sheer absurdity of modern sports economics memorable and digestible. The Royals didn't just sign a young, promising player. They signed a massive walking franchise multiplier.
Of course, the staggering money is really just a byproduct of the pure, unadulterated genius happening on the field. And that genius wasn't just recognized by the fans or the analysts, it was validated by none other than the god of cricket himself, Sachin Tendulkar. Now, Tendulkar didn't just offer up generic, polite praise. He pointed out the specific, high-level technical brilliance of this generational anomaly. He praised Vaibhav's outstanding bat swing, noting how beautifully he clears his front foot to create room against express pace aimed right at his body. That ability to manufacture space, that's a hallmark of elite batting. I mean, when Sachin Tendulkar logs onto social media to intricately analyze your technique, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you have officially arrived.
But amidst all the awe-inspiring destruction and the highest forms of praise, there was actually a moment of genuine heartbreak. As unstoppable as he looked, Vaibhav fell just 3 runs short of breaking Chris Gale's legendary, historic record for the fastest IPL century ever. When he got out, he was visibly devastated on the field, head bowed, really feeling the weight of the near miss. But it was in that poignant moment that the current India T20 captain, Suryakumar Yadav, reached out publicly to console him. He told the kid to keep his chin up, officially crowning him a star in the making. It beautifully highlights the immense respect and camaraderie this 15-year-old has already garnered from the absolute highest levels of the Indian cricketing setup.
And let's be totally clear here. While he might have missed that fastest century milestone by literally 1 delivery, he absolutely did not walk away from this season empty-handed. In fact, he completely shattered another massive historical milestone by launching 65 maximums into the stands. Vaibhav Suryavanshi broke Chris Gale's long-standing, seemingly untouchable record for the most sixes hit in a single IPL season. He took a record that people thought might stand for decades, and he dismantled it before he was even old enough to legally drive a car.
Okay, but as exciting and intoxicating as this overnight stardom is, we really have to step back and look at the grounding reality of the situation. When a 15-year-old breaks the internet and completely disrupts a billion-dollar sporting league, it introduces the very clinical, very serious side of long-term sports management. It triggers a massive, high-stakes balancing act behind the scenes, far removed from the flashing lights and roaring crowds of the stadium.
Experts, sports psychologists, and former players are all objectively explaining the vital need for extreme caution moving forward. As one former India skipper pointed out, early breakthroughs of this magnitude require incredibly careful handling. The overarching goal for the franchise isn't just to win the next match on the schedule, it's to ensure long-term consistency and build deep, enduring psychological resilience. There is a very real, very dangerous risk of early burnout for such a young prodigy if the global hype, the intense media attention, and the grueling travel schedule aren't managed with absolute precision.
So, to protect their incredible investment, the Rajasthan Royals management has to execute a meticulous, multi-pronged strategy. They must carefully balance giving him top-level exposure and opportunities with ongoing fundamental skill development behind closed doors. They must actively act as a shield, protecting him from the crushing, often toxic weight of excessive public expectations. And, crucially, they have to focus heavily on workload and mental management. As his teammate Rian Parag noted, the team's current, very smart strategy is to give him plenty of batting practice, but otherwise, they just leave him alone. They are actively trying to let him just be a normal teenager whenever he isn't holding a bat.
Which really leaves us with this final, incredibly heavy question to ponder. We have just witnessed one of the most breathtaking, paradigm-shifting arrivals in the entire history of T20 cricket. Vaibhav Suryavanshi has completely reshaped our expectations of what a teenager can fundamentally do against the best, most terrifying bowlers in the world. But can a 15-year-old prodigy survive and, more importantly, thrive under the relentless, unforgiving pressure of potentially 25 more years in the global spotlight? It's going to be an absolutely fascinating journey to watch unfold. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.